Alright, well, there we are. I'm on the boat, headed back over. Got a window seat. A little chilly out there. It's supposed to drop the temperature and actually start snowing at home in a few days, apparently. And that is basically what I'm on right now. One of those suckers right there. We're having a race. Well, let's hear somebody, shall we? Let's hear some voices. Marked as red. Possible encounter with a Bigfoot question mark. July 2018, Blue Ridge Mountains, North Carolina. I'm doing some primitive camping about 12 miles from Boone, North Carolina. I'm on a mountain, and there's a deep gorge about 200 yards from where I'm at with a beautiful river with small waterfalls. The river is the Boone Fork River. Now to back up, the year before, 2017, I was in this same spot, and I was doing some tree knocks and whoops. Just messing with my sister who came along with me. She's not an outdoor person at all, so it was a lot of fun to mess with her. Anyway, I got some coyotes stirred up, and you could hear them down in the gorge going crazy. She makes me sit down and shut up, and she's getting scared and upset, so I do. I'm not sure how much time passed, and we're in the tents getting ready to sleep, and I hear this god-awful jungle bird growl screech. Kind of like if someone would grab a chicken from behind, and the awful noise it would make. But imagine a jungle bird instead of a chicken. I know it sounds crazy. Then I hear branches breaking, and something's headed to the campsite through the woods. Then I hear heavy footsteps walking slowly past the tents. My dog Lucy's in the tent with me. She hears nothing. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. Lucy can hear someone walk down the road a quarter mile away, and she's not hearing this? And my sister hears it and yells out to me. I say, it's a bear, go to sleep. Ha, as if that's any consolation. And by the way, all my food is up. I even make sure to pick up any pieces of food Lucy may have dropped. I have no trace of food in my immediate area. The next morning, I'm looking at the branches broken, and they're broken like a very large person made a path through them. Not the height of a black bear would make walking on his feet. And I don't believe a 150, 200-pound black bear would even make the heavy steps walking that I heard. July 28th, it's just me and Lucy doing our camping thing. Same spot as the year before. I'm not even thinking about the incident the year before. I'm not thinking about Bigfoot. That evening, I've grilled my steak, cooked some potatoes, and I have an awesome fire blazing, not too big. I'm making s'mores over the fire. Lucy has retired to the tent, life's good. I'm chilled and relaxing, no sounds, zero light, only my campfire and moonlight. And I can see about 10 to 15 feet around me. And I hear a knock to my right, maybe 20, 30 feet away. And I'm like, oh shit. It's nothing. Just the trees popping. Yeah, right. About 10 to 15 minutes pass and I hear a knock off to my left / behind me. Oh shit. I'm cool. I have some really good s'mores going and I'm not panicking, but something is watching me. I can feel it. I can't see into the woods. Then I hear the same jungle bird howling, screeching sound. The hairs stand up on my neck. Now I'm freaking. Let me say, I never leave a fire burning. But that night, I spread the wood out as much as possible so it would die down and cool. I got my tent. I had a Coke I took in the tent with me. I threw the can out the door. Outside, I have my trash hung up. I left my cooler sitting on the ground. And I have my Coleman stove and my hatchet outside. And like a dummy, I grabbed my lantern instead of the flashlight, so I have no beam of light. I turned my lantern off in my tent, lay there for a few minutes, and I hear the footsteps coming from the direction of the last wood knock. It was walking slow. It was taking big strides and sounded heavy. And I swear I quit breathing. It's headed straight for my tent. With the moonlight through the trees, I saw this huge, tall, upright thing. Had a head and shoulders that circled my tent. It kicked or picked up the Coke can. I heard it look at the trash bag hanging in the tree. Sorry, I heard it look at the trash bag hanging in the tree? I'm dying, trying not to make a sound, shaking. Can't breathe, and Lucy once again hears nothing. She doesn't wake up. I would say it lasted about 5 minutes, maybe not that long in my camp. I believe it was Bigfoot. I saw the shadow outline of it circling my tent. But I have some questions. Why is Lucy not hearing this? Why am I hearing these crazy bird sounds? How could a being walk around my tent looking at it and not trip on my guidelines? It's a backpacking tent, so it is small, and the guidelines are for my rain fly. It didn't take anything. Didn't turn anything over. Didn't rummage through things. Now it's kind of a joke with my family and close friends. They say, hey, you want to go Bigfoot hunting? Nope. Had my share. I'm in South Dakota, Black Hills. This summer, and some of the interns want me to take them Bigfoot hunting down and around Horse Thief Lake before they head back home in August. And I told them I would. It'd be a lot of fun. I'm not sure I'll be able to do calls and knocks from laughing at them. I'll keep you posted. All right, there you go. This is in the older inbox too, you guys. All right, I went on a bit of a bender yesterday, I think, looking for emails that hadn't been read, and I found almost a whole page, and it was in the month of December, so I don't know what happened then. A few Decembers back. Appreciate that email. Straighten the sucker out. Next, key mind speak puzzle piece for the How to Hunt family. Hi Steve, yes, you can use my name. I first found your channel as a part of a spiritual awakening I was experiencing in 2021. I've been an avid supporter of this community of brave souls ever since. My interest in Sabe people is centered around their multi-dimensional abilities and what that can tell us about the same abilities in humans. Well, I just finished listening to the Telepathy tapes, a podcast with a few dozen short episodes about nonverbal autistic children who can communicate by thought speaking. It struck me how close this phrase is to the mind speak phrase used in so many of the emails sent into you, both in terms of the words and the meaning. Basically, these children who are able to communicate with iPads but find them very cumbersome describe how they go to the hill, which is their way of describing the ability to project thoughts into the field of consciousness and receive the thoughts of their friends who can do the same thing. No shit, that's crazy. Thing working? Hold on a minute. Sorry. The episodes go into how, when they are, quote, on the hill, end quote, they talk about their day, their teachers, their families, and what their hopes and dreams are for themselves, for humanity, and for the world. And get this, their main messages are that we are all one, and that this life is all about love. I heard the same message from the Sabe. their language, the phrase is neta boo. We're all one. This locks in the puzzle piece about mind speak for me. Humans have this ability too, but we were never given a safe space to know about it, talk about it, teach it, practice it, and use it. Autistic children, because they struggle with being able to regulate their bodies, have tapped into their telepathic abilities to communicate with each other. It's amazing. I hope this is helpful to you and your readers. It inspired me to begin developing my own telepathic skills, and maybe others will be inspired too. My best wishes and respect to you and yours, Casey Doyle, Oak Creek, Wisconsin. That's really, really interesting. I'm going to look into that, because I got a big interest in that too. It's time, right? But I'll tell you what, here's a request by me. If any of you do figure out how to do it and master it, please send me a message if you can. I know it sounds out there, probably impossible because I haven't practiced any of it, but you never know, you know what I mean? But wouldn't that be absolutely amazing if somebody emailed me and said, hey Steve, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to send you a telepathic message and this is what I'm going to send you. Or I'm going to send you something with a sentence that starts with this word and ends with this word, and you're going to get the rest in between in your mind. That'd be freaking awesome. And it's stormy out there. We're getting out in open water. It's a blah blah view. Nothing worthy of showing you guys, just open water and clouds. White caps, gray, windy, nasty. Keep us posted, please. New Jersey Bigfoot, 1970s. My friend's father was a prominent New Jersey taxidermist in the 1970s, an expert-level, well-respected sportsman specializing in animal behavior and trapping, and a wealth of outdoorsman's knowledge. Excuse me. He told his son and I of his Bigfoot/Sasquatch experience when we were young, and I've been enamored with it ever since. I have questioned him and asked him to repeat the story too many times in a 30-year period. Intentionally, I looked for flaws in the story, but unfortunately or not, he never missed a detail or gave me any reason not to believe him. The story consists of 3 events. Event 1 and 3 are typical Bigfoot. The second event has no explanation. The encounter happened in the early 70s in northern New Jersey inside a reservoir water system consisting of 5 large secluded water bodies. There's a series of mining trails that follow the perimeters and, at one time, allowed for truck access. My friend's father was parked off the mining trail at the very early morning hours, awaiting for some dawn light so he could go bass fishing from shore. His vehicle was facing the water and maybe 15 feet from the water's edge. There was no wind that night/morning, and he could hear mice in the leaf litter. It was so quiet. Without any forewarning, there was a very loud impact immediately above his head on the roof of his Ford station wagon. He instinctively pulled himself into the seat bottom as far away from the impact. The driver's window was open and he listened, and there was nothing but silence. Anticipating a tree limb fell on the car or a dead migrating Canada goose fell out of the sky, nothing. As he waited and continued to listen and hear nothing, he decided to leave. Hand on the key and the dash lights on, he did not start the car, but he did put the window up and he stayed. Next, about 20 minutes later, to his left, he noticed a glowing light. Not thinking much of it, he dismissed it as that tree fungus that glows at night. He described the pattern of the light as long rectangle capsule-like, with a space in the middle. And as the clouds moved, covering and revealing the moonlight, he had looked back and noticed the glowing light was missing. A few minutes later, it returned. A few cycles of on and off, and the unthinkable happened. He described his brain being shaking. What? He described his brain being shaken with his eyes locked on the light, not being able to physically look away. About 5 seconds of that, he was able to pull himself away from the light and immediately turn the ignition key. Hand on the key with the dash lights on, he did not leave. Another 20 minutes or so, and unbelievably, he got out of the car prepared to walk the mining trail to a spot closest to where he can cross through the woods and into the water, where he will start fishing. Even on a moonlit night, the woods are very dark, and the walk through the woods is an honest 50 yards. And once in the water, he started fishing, fun casting, and walking to his right. He caught 2 bass and hung them on the bushes to hang over the water's edge. And as he continued to walk, 5 to 6 steps per click in the water, he was able to hear something moving as he did. Next move, he intentionally only walked 2 steps. When he stopped, he heard steps in the woods that were not his, and that is when the fireworks started. Large rocks started flying through the woods, hitting trees, thudding on the forest floor, and rolling downhill into the water. He said 9 to 11 rocks were thrown, and, quote, "You can't imagine the sound the large rocks made bouncing off trees and the ground," end quote. Adrenals peaking, and nearly light enough he was able to look under the overgrowth and see what was up in the woods. And just before he could see he heard the steps run up the hill. Quiet when it crossed the mining trail, and audible again once it had crossed. End of email. There you go, another club member. New Jersey, in the 70s. Man, it's getting rocky out there. Alright, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. Hold on a minute. See that? Excuse me, it's nasty out. Nasty. You go in that water, it's going to be over real quick like. There's a ferry. What if I can zoom in on that boat out in the distance? Oh, my window's too dirty. Window's too dirty. Oops. Excuse me. Next email is titled Stranger Out Front. Hi Steve, my name is Pamela. I listen to your stories all the time, and I've come to a place where I want to share. I believe you're truthful and won't mock me. Thank you for making a way for our voice to be heard without shame. And this is one of my stories. Actually, I have 3, but I'll tell this one. Let me start with this, as I feel it's an important part. I was raised in a hunter, fisher, and camping family, as well on the farm. I know animal sounds, vocals, as well as behaviors, nothing new to me. As well as I live in the country, even now on 5 acres, about 35 minutes from town. I recognize my surroundings pretty well. That being said, it was a hot summer night, and I had my front door open to my home as I enjoy the fresh air over air conditioning. I have 2 pretty good-sized dogs, one a half a boxer / German Shepherd, and the other one a full-blood pit bull. They are well-trained and would attack by command if needed. They've been raised out here and they know their territory well and have no problem protecting it. They were in the house with me. Now, just down a ways, about 800 feet is our barn. My husband and father-in-law were fixing on their Harleys. Front doors to the barn open. And from our house, you can see down there pretty good. I was in the house prepping dinner, and from where I stand, there is an open way to see out into the living room and the front door. We, at the time, had our front porch open, meaning just wood flooring and rails. So, if anyone stood outside, they could see right in with no problem. I had my front curtains in the living room open as well. My dogs were laying right in front of the door, just inside. I was facing them. No TV on, no other sounds going, as I was enjoying the peacefulness of the night. I was looking up from prepping dinner, facing their way, when I watched them both sit straight up in a high sit stance, which I know them well enough that meant for them that they were alarmed. Not making a sound, just sitting very still. It was pretty dark outside at this point, so I could see without going over and turning the front lights on. You could see in, but I could see, you could see in, but I could outside unless, I think he meant I couldn't outside unless I had the lights on. And just at that moment, I heard a deep gut growl that felt like it literally rumbled through the living room all the way to where I was. I froze. My dogs were frozen, not moving, not making one sound, which was not normal for them. They would growl or bark at people or animals if they get close to the house, but they weren't even growling. The atmosphere was one of fear. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I think what freaked me the most was my dogs wouldn't move, and the hair on their backs was straight up. I didn't know what to do. I've heard bear growls, cougar. Nothing around here made that sound. Nothing. I had a feeling whatever it was standing right there watching us. There was a real fear feeling in the air, and all I could think at that moment was, they're in the barn. They're in the barn and we're here alone. What am I going to do? I was afraid for the men, too. I knew I had to think fast, but I was frozen. My dogs are frozen. And just at that moment, my boxer mix turned her head really slowly to look at me. Nothing else of her moved. It was like one of those scary movies. It creeped me out. She just looked at me with fear. And I tell you, Steve, if I wasn't freaked out enough, that did it for me. I grabbed my big butcher knife by me. We have guns, but they were at the other end of the house, and I wasn't about to leave that room. I moved slowly towards the dogs, and I heard a hard thud by my porch. I slammed the door shut. Fear wasn't even the word. I looked at my dogs, and they looked at me like, now what? And I thought, oh my word, I have to do something now. The men are in the open barn, and that thing could go get them. I told my dogs, let's go. That's what I say right before I tell them to attack. Whenever I've had to send them out to check things out, they go on command and run out, always towards whoever's out there. So I thought, I'll do that to scare off this thing. So I opened the door and command them to go get it. They ran out, but this time they did something I've never seen them do. They got out in front of my porch and ran circles, barking, but wouldn't go after whatever it was. I screamed out for the men to get up to the house fast. And there was a strong, nasty smell, too, and I about lost my stomach. That and fear mix. My dogs wouldn't stop. They just kept running in the circle and barking. I said again to go get it, but they wouldn't break circle. The men were coming up to the house fast, and I told them to get in the house fast. I called the dogs in, too, and they came right in. And I was shaking pretty bad, and I told them what happened. I said, I think Bigfoot was outside the door. And of course they laughed at me. Not too much, though, as they had seen I was pretty scared. They said they did smell something bad outside, but they didn't see anything as they were coming up. I wouldn't let them go back out that night. And in the morning I went outside with my dogs, and the first place they went to was off to the front of my front porch where I'd heard that growl. I looked around on the ground for any kind of prints, but it just looked as though the grass had been stomped all around that area. My male dog was acting funny, sniffing all around and having to mark his ground. Something was there, and I truly believe it was a Bigfoot. And that thought I heard? I had a metal horse up on my deck side about 5 feet from the ground, and it was now laying about 6 feet over from the deck next to my house as if something chucked it. Needless to say, I don't go out at night alone without my dogs with me. And if the guys go out, I send them with them too. Like I said, I've had 3 different times out here. I know there's one around here. I've also heard a high-pitched scream early morning that I know was no human and no cougar. I know what they sound like. This thing had a scream that went on for a few minutes and had to have one big set of lungs. Thank you for letting me tell my story, Steve. If you use it or not, I know you listen without judgment. Thank you, stay safe, and blessings always, Pamela. I appreciate that too, Pamela. Sorry it took so long to find this email, but I get there. I get there. There's no denying it. I eventually get there. Now, looking forward, maybe I'll have to do a search if I remember, and or if I haven't. If you've got other emails that you don't think I've read, and you still got them in your sent box or whatever, stick them all in one email and forward them to me, all right? and I'll hit it. There's a new ferry. Maybe I'll drop the window and show you guys this boat. It's called the Fast Ferry or something. It's just for passengers only. It goes from the Vancouver Island right to downtown Vancouver. Apparently, let's have a look at this sucker. First time I've seen it go. I have to open all the window and we'll zoom in on it. Hold on. Definitely moving. Passing us. Huh. There you go. First time I've seen that thing. It's new, apparently. Alright, here we go. The Mother Sasquatch is the title of this email. I grew up in a small town in southern Ohio, and I spent a lot of time playing and hanging out in the woods. My friends and I were either building lean-to shelters, exploring caves, or sometimes even taking all our Hot Wheels cars and spending the whole day from daylight till dark making little roads and bridges and such. It was the mid-70s, and before anyone had video games, so we had to have big imaginations. But the story that I'm about to tell you is 100% real. Well, as it does, time passed and other things took the place of Hot Wheels and G.I. Joe, such as girls, cars, and hunting. The year that I turned 15, which is 1981, my dad gave me an old single-shot 16-gauge shotgun that had been in our family for ages, and I put it to good use. My friends and I hunted everything from squirrels to white-tailed deer. The fall rolled around that year, and we couldn't wait to hit the woods. This is before four-wheelers, and none of us had a license yet, so we walked most everywhere. Well, hit the woods around 4:35 a.m. that morning and headed for the areas that we had been scouting all summer. There were four of us, and we split up in four different directions, and I headed straight north and was maybe around 3 miles in when I came to an old strip mine pond, and all around it were deer tracks galore. And I noticed a big buck had been there because his track left dew claw print deep in that mud. So I thought I'd hang out at this spot for a bit and try to get a shot at him. Maybe an hour or so passed and I started hearing twigs snapping, but also could hear what sounded like a low humming sound. I sat down on a big rock that was about 20 to 30 yards up the hill from the pond, so I had a pretty good view all around it. Now this part of the story to this day gives me goosebumps. I caught a movement out of the corner of my eye coming down the two-track road leading to the pond, and I could still hear the humming sound as I looked through the brush and trees. I saw a creature walking on two legs and carrying something. My mind turned to mush as I realized what I was looking at. I had never read anything on Sasquatch or Bigfoot. The only thing I could equate it to was the old $6 Million Man episode in which Andre the Giant played that part of Bigfoot. I felt heat enter my toes and rush to the top of my head, but I didn't make a sound. This thing walked to the pond and scooped up water in its hand, and I thought it was maybe trying to doctor a wound on its arm or something like that. And I had a small set of Tasco binoculars in my pocket, so I eased them out, and as I focused on the creature, I realized that in its arms was a baby creature. She was either cleaning it, or maybe it was sick, I don't know for sure. I watched her for, 10 minutes. Then she turned around and went back 90 degrees from the road and ran through the thick brush and was humming to the baby. She was humming to the baby one, not a tune, but a comforting low hum. And this isn't the first time I've told anyone. This is the first time I've told anyone of this. And it is 100% the truth. As I always say, there are three kinds of people that watch Sasquatch videos and that take interest in the topic. Lookers, believers, and knowers. And I know for a fact they exist. Nobody can ever tell me different. Thanks for listening to Standing Up for honest, upstanding people, and I'm sorry for my writing skills, but I think you'll be able to read it as truth. I got it. I nailed it. You nailed it. I nailed it. We nailed it together. although there's a bunch of punctuation missing, but I'm getting good at that part, right? We got her. You know, there's the one, that Thinker Thunker dude that I can't get a hold of. I tried a while back. He did a big video analysis of that one carrying the small one in its arm, and he concluded that it's authentic, that video clip. And I guess what I think he was going by the gait, the length of its appendages compared to a human being, and he said, "No, that ain't no human. It's impossible." Crazy, right? Isn't that a crazy video, that one? It's broad daylight in the woods, no thick brush in between, just straight the camera right to the being, and it's black, covered in hair, and it's got a little one in its arms, going from the right to left, ducking behind a rock for a pause, and comes out and keeps going. Somebody got that in video. Crazy, right? I trust that Thinker Thunker guy. I think he's a solid dude, and he just does matter-of-fact mathematics, right? You can't really argue much with mathematics. There you go. Welcome to the club. Here's another one. My Sasquatch Encounter in 2013 is the title of this email. So, my buddy, who was 60 years old at the time, was deer hunting with me in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Georgia. We camped out the night before and set our climbers on some trees and some spots we'd scouted pre-season. I was about a quarter mile from him, and we got to our stands about an hour before first light, which gave us time to set up and relax in the dark and listen to the cool noises of the woods. Well, we definitely got more than we bargained for. We had hunted this area plenty of times and never had such an experience. So about 15 minutes before first light, I start hearing the whooping noises coming from my buddy's direction. I also heard tree knocking noises, like someone hit a tree with a large stick. I heard more whooping noises, and then one really loud yell. But it definitely sounded like it had some serious lung capacity, and it was nothing like I've ever heard before from an animal. And I've heard every wild animal known to Georgia, and never anything like that. So the noises stopped after the loud yell. I didn't know what to think, other than maybe some bears were fighting or something, and the owls were carrying on because of it. It was my best guess. So, right at first possible shooting light, which is only minutes from the noises stopping, my buddy texted me, "Get your ass over here." I figured, cool, he got a deer and he needs my help. So I come out of my stand and I head towards his spot. Now keep this in mind. When my buddy and I see each other in the woods, we make hand signals and only whisper to each other, but when he saw my head come up over the crest, he yelled, "Get the F over here, look at this shit." They had me surrounded and were yelling and making weird whooping noises and hitting trees with sticks and throwing rocks at my tree. He was white as a ghost and was shaking like a leaf. I've never seen him afraid of anything, but he was wide-eyed and freaked out. He said, "Look," and pointed at the ground, and I saw several footprints in a semicircle pattern. I felt pretty calm about it, and I was kind of glad they picked us. I felt pretty calm about it, and was kind of glad they picked us to mess with, because we've both mentioned to each other in the past that we probably wouldn't shoot a Sasquatch just to kill it. So my buddy looked around, more prints, and found a couple more up the hill. He said they were knocking trees first and kept getting closer and left right when it started getting light. I kind of had a euphoric feeling going on to be lucky enough to be part of this, so I decided to search all over the knoll we were on top, this mountain, and found more tracks, with one sunken really deep next to a big tree, as if it was putting all its weight on its right foot while using the tree as cover, while overlooking deer trails below. I also saw some prints straddling a large log that was freshly moved, and it looked like something was foraging for grubs there. The footprints looked exactly like 16 to 18-inch human footprints, unlike all the wide, big footprints you always see on TV. These ones were massive, yet very similar to ours, and the big toe was about the size of a serving spoon, and the small toes looked like one pad, but could have appeared that way from matted hair. I don't know. We had one more encounter the following week, but I'll share that in another email as I'm going to catch an evening deer hunt in my backyard. Thanks, man. Love your videos and stories and look forward to them. I'm hooked. Okay, I got you. Almost read your name. And then it says, please don't use my name if you decide to tell the story. Okay, gotcha. I don't know if you emailed me again or not. If you're still here, send it again, all right? I'm on my way. I'm not going to be home for 3 or 4 days, I don't think, so the chances of me remembering to go back into these emails and find somebody's email and you know what I'm saying. There you go. There's another one. Wyoming hunter. Sasquatch question. Dear Steve, my name is Ted Cook, and I'm a 61-year-long Wyoming native. I'm a Sasquatch believer and 100% fan of your show. My father taught me to hunt and fish since I was knee-high and treated me to numerous irreplaceable adventures in the wide open and uninhabited spaces of Wyoming. And I have encountered things I no longer share with others due to unwarranted criticism, or fear, as you call it, of the truth. Because your time is valuable and very limited, I have one question regarding Sasquatch, and I'm curious if you have ever looked into the possibility that this species could have resulted from a scientific experiment gone terribly wrong, i.e., Dr. Ivanov Lias of USSR attempt at breeding the human race with chimpanzees in 1925. It is also my understanding this practice could have gone on for centuries prior. Although most historians report Dr. Ivanov was forced to abandon the study there, there may be supporting evidence this could be a viable explanation for the continued sightings of the Sasquatch. Most recently, a video was brought to my attention by Jesse Ventura about a military experiment in North Carolina where the practice of combining human DNA with chimpanzee DNA in the attempt to create a megaforce army. In this elusive search for the truth, and based on your experience in the subject, I would greatly appreciate your opinion. Thank you for your time, your friend, Ted Cook. Ted, well, all I know is, excuse me, from the studies that Melba did and others, was they determined that our DNA was intentionally, or this DNA, all DNA maybe, I forget, I have to reread it, was intentionally manipulated a long time ago, as in real long time ago. So, do I think that's possible reality? Without a doubt. Today's twisted, sick scientific community in some places, some countries, who knows, maybe all countries, are they doing that shit? You know they are. Absolutely they are. We've had other people come here that have been diving deep into this subject of rabbit holes for a long time, and allegedly it is fact that there are animal-human hybrid beings ripping around. There you go. It's hard to swallow, isn't it? Your average human today. Will we find out the truth? Yeah, for sure. I believe we're going to find the truth. I believe we are, for sure. But yeah, I think humans did it a long time ago, and I think humans still do it today. That's what I think. It's just my opinion. I just wish I knew why we are such dumbasses and why we do not know our true history or who we really are or what we really are capable of in a good way, in a positive way, and in a way that creates absolute freedom and enjoyment of this lifetime for all across the board equally, right? I think that's a valid complaint, don't you think? Because the way we're going at things now, no. We were not given this time to be alive and enjoy life, to only be working slaves on a slave planet, right? We're not supposed to be working our asses off all day, all week, non-stop, for decades, and giving over half of what we produced away. It's not the way it's supposed to be. This is an absolute ridiculous shit show. But the majority of us have been slowly conditioned to accept our current state as normal. Meanwhile, how many of us grew up with a yard? Everybody grew up with a yard, a big yard, and swing sets, and mom was at home, and we used to run in and eat freezies and lunch and shit, and have friends come over and ride our bikes over to their friends' place, and our tricycles, and everything was safe and cool. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now everybody's crammed in little boxes, and the accepted normal way of life is both parents work and your kids are raised by somebody else at a place called daycare. Right? It's so twisted, but it's crazy to watch how humans as a herd just keep going into the chutes, right? Everybody just keeps going into the chutes. No problem. Submitting. You know what I mean? I mentioned earlier, I'm not supposed to be alive right now. I was supposed to be alive in the mountains hundreds of years ago. I'm certain of it. Certain of it. Free. Absolutely free to go and do as I please. Find my food and survive. Anyway, I'm babbling. Coffee's really kicking in. One more. One more. This is titled My Bigfoot Story. Hello, Steve. My name is Rich Williams. And I sent you my story before, but I think I messed up in the delivery, so I'll try again. All right. Excuse me. I'm a 57-year-old man who has spent most of his life in the outdoors. I was raised as a cowboy, riding in the mountains or the high desert for the first 23 years of my life. I'm a third-generation cowboy raised by my dad and grandpa, who were second to none. My dad used to brag about how my grandpa could track an ant across a rock and tell you where he stopped to fart. That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm also an avid hunter, hunting deer, elk, black bear, upland birds, and coyote. And I started hunting when I was 11. I was really riding the fence about Bigfoot because of a couple of key points. First, there was so many credible stories from hardworking people and casts and pictures, but my grandpa, who was in the mountains for 7 years, says he's never seen a track or seen one. Or none of his other cowboy friends had seen one, so I reserve my opinion. I was hunting with a friend for black bear in south central Washington, approximately 10 miles north of Goldendale, and just south of the Yakima Indian Reservation in the shadow of Mount Adams. We were about 10 miles west of Highway 97 and set up our camp for a 3-day hunt. My friend had hunted there before and was really excited about our possibilities to harvest a bear. We took off early and decided to split up, going in different directions, but we had walkie-talkie to call if we needed each other. And after a pretty full day of not seeing anything, I started back to my pickup, which was a couple of miles back, knowing if I didn't get back, I'd for sure be walking back in the dark. And as I approached a clearing, I heard this incredible bark/roar/howl. Truly something I'd never heard before. My guess was that it had to be a bear because it couldn't be anything else. I get set in some brush, using a stump as a rest, and I got settled in knowing I was about to get a shot. And I hunt with a 300 Weatherby Magnum with a Leopold scope. And as I was listening to this barking roar, I kept thinking, what the hell is that? But I knew it had to be huge because it was tearing up the trees. It kept roaring. About every 15 to 30 seconds, it sounded like it was about 100 yards due west at the base of a ridge. Then it started to sound like it was going away. So, and for the life of me, I don't know why I did this, I tried to copy the roar. And oh my God, it started to screech at me even louder and sounded really pissed off. I know now I'm going to get my shot because it sounded like it was coming back. And as I was looking through my scope, off to my right due north, another scream sounded, and it was pissed off too. I'm thinking now, man, am I lucky. For sure I'm going to get my bear. So I kept pivoting back and forth between the two. They both sounded close and really mad, but not coming into the open. And after about 2 to 3 minutes of listening to these two, another one started screaming directly behind, due east about 100 yards. I'm starting to get a little concerned because I'm feeling surrounded. So I call my friend to get his ass up here because I have 3 bears all around me. And he laughs and says, sure you are. But he's on his way. And in about 20 to 30 minutes, he shows up. And this whole time, I'm hearing these things about every minute or so. I'm really starting to freak out a little. And when he gets there, I tell him, and he says, okay, copy that scream. So I did. And holy crap. Not only did the 3 yell back, but now there's a 4th one due south that had been right where my friend had come from. We both freaked out because they were screaming. It sounded like they were breaking trees and tearing up the whole mountain. We both decided to get out. Now, when we got back to my truck, it was completely dark. We tried to make light of the incident and laugh it off. And as we were loading our gear into my truck, my friend said, hey, do that scream again. So I did, and instantly I got a response. It sounded like it was 10 feet away in the dark, right beside us. We jumped into the truck and drove like a madman. To say that we were scared shitless doesn't even come close. In fact, we got back to camp, which was about 3 miles away. We loaded up everything and got the hell off the mountain without saying a word to each other. And this event happened 11 years ago, and since that time I've researched to find that scream, and I haven't found a recording of it anywhere. Like I mentioned earlier, I've spent most of my life in the outdoors, seen mama bears with 3 cubs twice. In Alaska, I've seen grizzly break trees like kindling. I'm a disabled veteran, and I've been to 30 countries around the world, and I've never seen or heard anything like this. I still go hunting, but with the feeling like I'm being watched. And I'm always looking behind me now a lot harder. Appreciate you and what you're doing. I'm at peace now with knowing that there's something out there as well. You can even say my name because I'll tell my story to anyone who will listen. Now, at first I was afraid. I was afraid to because I did tell my brother, who's a great guy, an avid hunter too, and he told me not to tell that story to anyone else. I listened to him for a while, but now I'm talking. You're awesome. I believe your stories as well. Thanks. Okay, man. Appreciate you big time. And there you go. Another well-seasoned outdoors person. Member of the club. And I try to get across to everybody, give you confidence when you hear about, imagine how many people I've come across. I've been in the woods all my life. I haven't seen anything. I know. The majority of people haven't. But that doesn't mean anything, because how many people have we had email in and go, man, I worked that ranch since my grandfather worked the ranch, my father worked the ranch, then I worked the ranch, and now I'm 72. Never seen or heard anything like this before until last week. Right? Loggers, same thing. Hunters, same thing. Game wardens, right? We've had so many lifelong people who have lived a long life rurally, professionally, recreationally. I never seen nothing. I ain't seen anything. Nobody I know seen it. And then boom, in your face, there it is, down there looking in your truck. Right? How many? So I'm just saying, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? It shouldn't have any weight on somebody's mind if you hear somebody who's been in the woods for many, many years and never seen nothing. It just doesn't matter. Anyway, getting closer. Probably close enough. I can shut this sucker down. Sure helped me kill time in a way for the mundane sailing time. City of Vancouver, right there, dead center in the distance. My window's probably too dirty. Oh, there we go. There's the big smoke. Big city of Vancouver, British Columbia. I am going over that way into those. I'm hitting land over there and then hanging a left and going up into the mountains. I'll be back maybe tomorrow. If I'm back tomorrow, it's going to be from the woods. Can't wait. It's funny, I found fix this camera up. It's funny, in my travels I found one spot I've seen. I'll take you guys there sometime. Huge mature timber, never been logged before, in
I found like 12 cedar poles, way bigger than these ones, all leaned up around a big fir tree in the middle of nowhere where it's impossible to get equipment. It is what it is. When you know these beings are running around, nothing's really surprising. It's like, I don't know, whatever that means. It is what it is, but I'm slowly making my way to bail over the edge and go straight down this mountain as I'm looking for something unrelated, but it's funny when I see something like this and the direction of gravity is actually, well, let's take a look. The direction of gravity is I guess straight away from me, I would think. And the chance of all these trees falling and landing in the exact same one spot is kind of doesn't really fit with gravity, does it? And you can see where they're placed. Didn't even grow there. But anyways, whatever, it is what it is. A bunch of big trees stacked up. Normally I see these sort of things quite often. I'm not really overly concerned about it myself. But I thought since I was making a video right here, I would videotape that for those who are interested. So there you go. How'd that happen?